What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode here. We are taking a deep dive on Luigi Mangione's new lawyer for his New York charges. So the lawyer we broke down before that's handling his Pennsylvania charges is just for Pennsylvania. He has a new lawyer in New York that has some very compelling connections to other situations and other cases, and she's already been interviewed discussing Luigi Mangione's case. So we're going to take a look at her firm website, get into her background and her education and experience. We're going to take a look at that interview that she already did. And we're going to discuss the defense. That was the first thing that popped into her head when she took a look at everything that was available publicly on this case before she was hired. So make sure you guys hit that like button because we're jumping into the video now. So the first thing we're going to do here is take a look at Karen Friedman Agnifilo's website. Okay. Agnifilo. I'll probably say it both ways throughout the video. I'm not positive how it's pronounced. But as we look at Agnifilo in Trader, this criminal defense firm, you may notice Mark Agnifilo right here. The first person listed. So you'll notice a couple things about him. Number one, they've got the same last name and they are married to each other, husband and wife. Not that unusual in a law firm. But what you may also recognize about Mark Agnifilo is he is currently representing P. Diddy. Also a New York case, also high profile. This firm is about to be very, very busy. Something else you may notice, and I had some people ask me, why is she of counsel and these three are partners? Well, of counsel is a bit of a different indication. You can go to a law firm and be hired in as an associate, a junior associate, a senior associate, a junior partner, or a partner. Those are kind of the most commonly seen titles that you would get when you get hired into a law firm. And usually if you're hired as an associate, you're on a partner track, meaning you start out as a lower level lawyer, you work your way up to being partner, which you actually share in the revenue, the costs, meaning the overhead, right? If you have a bad year, you could have to pay into that, but obviously you generate good revenue and you get the benefits of that. You reap the benefits of that because you're sharing in the partnership if you're actually a partner. A partner is, kind of the boss of the firm, and there are levels of partner, obviously. It could be named partner, managing partner, whatever it may be. But of counsel is a bit of a different indicator. Of counsel is usually somebody that is hired to work at the firm and kind of has their own schedule. They might be on their own terms, right? They may only handle a few cases. They may assist the firm on a few cases. They may be in office. They may not, but they're usually not somebody that's on a partner track. They're usually not somebody that's a younger lawyer without a lot of experience. Of counsel usually brings a lot of experience, and they kind of want to have the freedom to work in the firm and maybe do other things. And when we read her profile, I think we'll understand why, a little bit more why she's of counsel, because somebody with her resume and her background and experience usually would be hired as a partner in a law firm like this, not brought in as an associate because she's been doing it for a long time and has a lot of really good experience. One other connection I wanted to make was Tenny Garagos, also a name you may be familiar with, as her dad, Mr. Garagos, represents the Menendez brothers. I believe he represented Michael Jackson, lots of high-profile cases, interviewed on news stations all the time. This is his daughter, who's also a partner in this firm. I found all of that very captivating to me, right? A lot of big names here, a lot of big names involved, whether it's clients, family members, lawyers here. Let's take a look at Karen's profile. I'm only calling her Karen to differentiate from her husband, not because she's a female. All right, let's read her about section. Actually, let's go education first. University of California, Los Angeles, Georgetown University Law Center. About as good as it gets, right? Very good education, top of the line. So let's go into her background now. Karen Friedman Agnifilo has a 3-decade background in criminal justice, litigation, and trials. Her practice focuses on criminal defense in state and federal courts, leveraging her extensive experience prosecuting serious violent crimes, including complex homicide cases from accusation to investigation to arrest and trial. And it's important when we talk about that, right? Because we've talked about it a little bit before that you don't just start a criminal defense case after people are arrested. So many of them start when people are accused or when law enforcement or the government is investigating them. And then sometimes, of course, after they've been charged or arrested all the way through the litigation and trial process. In addition to criminal defense, she also represents plaintiffs in civil and employment matters and individuals in Title IX matters. She also specializes in internal investigations relating to misconduct, discrimination, and sexual assault. Let's talk about what else they have about her. A public servant for nearly 3 decades, Karen Friedman Agnifilo left the government as the chief assistant district attorney in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, a role she held from 2014 to 2021. So what can we learn about this, right? So a chief assistant is different than just a deputy or a regular assistant or a line assistant. It is a supervisor. And we talk about, my dad's resume. He was the chief assistant of the Middle District of Florida, which is still a federal prosecutor. Hers is on the state level, but the chief assistant usually is the one assigning cases. Which prosecutor is going to handle which case? They're in charge of training. How do we build these young lawyers up? Teach them how to be good trial lawyers, making charging decisions. What defendants are we going to charge? Which ones are we not going to charge? What do we look for? How do we combat, big high profile defense attorneys coming in to fight these cases? She is the one that would teach the younger prosecutors and lead a lot of that in the Manhattan DA's office, which is really great experience. She played a critical leadership role in prosecuting high-profile violent crimes, including complex cases, including cases involving a mental health component. This is literally in her About Me page on her website. More on that later. As well as cold case homicides. As the second most senior attorney in the office, Ms. Friedman Agnifilo served as acting district attorney when the DA was out of the jurisdiction. So she was second in command, no doubt about that. She also supervised all complex and high-profile matters in the office and managed a team of 1,500 people with a $120 million budget. So listen, make no mistake, she was a government employee. But running this office is like running one of the biggest law firms in the country. 1,500 employees and $120 million budget. Very, very, very few private law firms have that many employees and that big of a budget. I mean, she's got 4 lawyers, at least on their website, it shows 4 lawyers in this office right now, compared to 1,500 she used to supervise. She has the experience and judgment to manage complex high-stake cases. While serving in the Manhattan DA's office, Ms. Friedman Agnifilo was also integral to creating the office's human trafficking unit, hate crimes unit, antiquities trafficking unit, terrorism unit, cyber crimes, and identity theft bureau, as well as working on the creation of Manhattan's first mental health court. A lot of experience in the mental health region. Before her promotion to the Manhattan DA's chief assistant, Ms. Friedman served as the office's executive ADA and the chief of its trial division from 2010 to 2014. Her other work in the Manhattan DA's office includes 4 years as the deputy chief of the sex crimes unit. Ms. Friedman Agnifilo has also served as general counsel to the New York City Mayor's Office, criminal justice coordinator, where she worked for Mayor Michael Bloomberg on transforming New York City's criminal justice policy. In private practice since 2021. So here's what I'll say. That's not a long time. And it's a very different world going from a prosecutor to a criminal defense attorney, right? A lot of lawyers in our office have done that. It's a different world. Having clients, dealing with clients, quoting fees, getting paid, collecting, even doing, press conferences, talking to people, talking to witnesses, talking to law enforcement, getting people together. It's different resources and it's a different game on the defense side. And she's only been doing that since 2021. But have no doubts, she is very experienced, and her husband being a very experienced criminal defense attorney that's also in the law firm with her obviously helps out. She focuses on serving each of her clients' unique and specific needs at the highest level. She has extensive investigatory and trial experience and represents clients in civil and criminal matters in both state and federal courts. She's especially adept at representing plaintiffs in employment disputes, whether they proceed to trial or are resolved quietly before a complaint is ever filed. So this is funny, right? So I'm going to talk eventually about the Jay-Z and P. Diddy pre-suit demands and is that extortion and stuff like that. We're going to do a video on that eventually. But she even mentions here in her profile, they proceed to trial or are resolved quietly before a complaint is ever filed. Guess how you resolve those as a civil lawyer? With a demand letter. It's not extortion. Or if it is extortion, it's basically legal extortion because, well, extortion is a crime, so it's not extortion. If you do it the right way, of course, the appropriate way. Ms. Friedman Agnifilo is a frequent, so here is, I think, why she's of counsel. Could be a million reasons, right? Could be because she wants to, maybe she's semi-retired. I have no idea. People do it for a million different reasons. You can also, by the way, just be like a litigation attorney or a trial attorney at a law firm, which is not on a partner track, is not an associate attorney. So all these different titles do have different meanings to them. Of counsel, really, you can be of, I've seen people be of counsel in some jurisdictions in multiple firms. Interesting. Everybody has their own reasons, but it is different than a partner because you're not a decision maker. Usually if you're of counsel, you haven't bought into the partnership. You don't bear the risk of the overhead, and you also don't reap in the rewards of splitting the revenue. Usually it's more of a, you just get part of what you produce or a salary of some sort. So it is a very different position. So here is what she also does. She is a frequent television news guest and commentator and is a former legal analyst for CNN. She is also the co-host of a weekly podcast on the Midas Touch Network, where she discusses emerging legal issues and litigation strategy that routinely has 500,000 listeners per episode. She is also the legal advisor for the television show Law and Order. Ms. Friedman Agnifilo is a graduate of University of California, Los Angeles, and the Georgetown University Law Center. That's just Georgetown's law school. I don't know why they call it the Law Center, but so she does a lot of legal commentary. She does it on Twitter. She does it on CNN. She does it on different news programs. She does it on her own podcast. So she is not new to the content game. And that is important for a number of reasons. Number one, she knows how it works. Number two, my guess is she's going to be following it. She's going to have her finger on the pulse of what's going on in the media, what's going on in the public. What are the mainstream media people saying? What are the podcasters saying? What are the YouTubers saying? My guess is because she's in that world, this world, I should say, she will be following it. She will know what questions people have, what people are holding on to. She's going to know about the public support that Luigi Mangione has. That's my opinion. I think she's going to know about that. And what's she going to do with it? We'll see. What has she done with it so far? Well, speaking of being a legal commentator, speaking of going on CNN, it turns out that Luigi Mangione's lawyer has already spoken about this case. And so we're going to listen. It's a very quick clip. I haven't been able to find the longer interview and getting more of her thoughts. So if any of you guys find that, please send it to me. I would love to know what other nuggets she reveals here. But let's take a look at exactly what she says.
Tonight, the accused CEO killer may be getting ready to head here to New York, perhaps sooner than some expected, as I have exclusive new reporting about who will be representing him when he gets here. Tonight, I can report that Luigi Mangione has retained a high-powered New York defense attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, to represent him as he's facing a second-degree murder charge in the death of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Viewers of The Source will be very familiar with Friedman Agnifilo, who was recently a CNN legal analyst, but she's also a veteran of the New York criminal justice system. She served as the chief assistant district attorney in the Manhattan DA's office for 7 years before going into private practice. As one longtime New York prosecutor told me tonight, she knows, quote, every corridor, every judge, every clerk in the courthouse here. And she will be taking this case on at a time when investigators have amassed new evidence in recent days, with police telling CNN this week that the 3D printed gun he had on him when he was arrested matches the 3 shell casings that were found at the crime scene in Midtown Manhattan. His fingerprints also match those that investigators found on items near the scene. This is all evidence that Friedman Agnifilo said before she was retained, I should note, could potentially be a problem.
So this is his lawyer. This is Karen Friedman Agnifilo. And she is making comments now to CNN. This was before she got hired. So before we hear her comments, I am sure that she understands, because she's done a lot of this, that every lawyer on YouTube, podcast, Twitter, whatever it may be, when they comment on cases, we all know there is so much more that we don't know, so much more than meets the eye. Could be different evidence, could be additional, could be less. But at this time, she hasn't seen the discovery. She hasn't talked to Luigi Mangione. At this point, right, in the here and now that she represents him, she probably has spoken to him. She may have reviewed some of the actual discovery. So we're going to listen to what she said based on what's public and the information we all knew at the time. But if it changes, it could be because new information has come to light. But based on what we all know, let's hear what his lawyer thought before he hired her.
It looks to me like there might be a not guilty by reason of insanity defense that they're going to be thinking about, because the evidence is going to be so overwhelming that he did what he did.
So there's obviously more to that, and we're going to listen to that again. But she says he is going to be thinking about an insanity defense. That's the first thing that she says when she's reviewed the publicly available information. So what does that mean? An insanity defense is an affirmative defense. So in order to go that route, you have to admit you did what they said you did, meaning he was there with the firearm, he pulled the trigger. He did this. But what's also important about an insanity defense is that you lack the mental capacity, basically, to understand the nature and consequences of your conduct, or that your conduct was wrong. You don't have the ability to decipher right from wrong. You don't have the capacity to actually know something beneath the surface and really understand what it is you're doing. And we've seen insanity defenses be different in different jurisdictions. And if they go that route in this case, we will be doing a deep dive on how insanity works in New York. But generally speaking, it's an affirmative defense. You have to admit the wrongdoing, but explain there's a reason why that makes you not guilty. That can change your punishment to either you go home or you're committed to some mental health institution until you're no longer a danger to the community, and then you go home. But you don't go to prison for the rest of your life. And that was the first thing that popped into her head. Now, that's all fine and dandy, and we'll see if she goes that route. And I think that if you look at, now what's interesting about that is some people can say that's different than what the client has already said. Luigi Mangione, in his informal arraignment, said no mental health issues, no medication, no history of any of that. And he was fine, and he understood what was going on, even without a lawyer there, which we'll see if there were issues with that. But so if he says that and she's saying insanity, is she going to advise insanity? Is he going to take her advice? Are they going to have the documentation for that? They're going to have to get some mental health professionals in there, review what happened. But then if you look at his background, very intelligent young man, Ivy League school, well-to-do family. So does that really fit? But then if you think, well, there must have been a break. Something happened a year ago. And this was so outside of his character and so different. And nobody could understand or ever think that he would do something like this, least of all his family. His roommates making the rounds, doing interviews and saying, didn't seem like this is the type of guy he was. So was there a snap? Was there a mental break? I think as a lawyer, when you look at this case, if all the evidence really does point to him, it may be all you're left with if the shoe fits, if there is the documentation, if the mental health professionals go that route and say that's the route you should go. That's a very big if. But what I also found interesting about her comments was what she said at the end, and we're going to listen to it one more time. It's only 1 minute.
And not guilty by reason of insanity. Looks to me like there might be a not guilty by reason of insanity defense that they're going to be thinking about, because the evidence is going to be so overwhelming that he did what he did.
The evidence is going to be so overwhelming that he did what he did. Again, I wish I had more of this interview so I could get some of the context around what she said, but That's really interesting to me, right? I mean, a career prosecutor, okay? Career prosecutor. And now, just since 2021, a criminal defense attorney taking on this role in this case. How does she look at it? Because the evidence overwhelming that he did it is interesting, because we have a hoodie, we have a mask, we have eyebrows, we have a smile. Is that what she's going off of? Or is she going off the fingerprints? Does she know more about the fingerprints than we do? The ID, same ID that was found on him, the manifesto that was found on him, ID connected to the hostel. What does she think exactly is the evidence that is so overwhelming that he did this? I would just be interested to know how she got there this quickly in this case. Now, of course, if she's just commenting on it in CNN and just kind of going off the top of her head, giving her legal opinions, but they hold more weight now that she's representing him, obviously, right? And people have also asked that question, that ultimate question. Is that a bad thing? Does that affect her ability to represent him? Should she be allowed to represent him now that she has made those comments? And my answer here is an emphatic and simple yes. It is up to Luigi Mangione. I assume she told him she's made these comments. I would hope so. And I would assume that he's not making his decision based on what comments she made on CNN. Now, if she would have said, this guy's obviously a scumbag, he obviously did this, he should be fried forever, whatever it may be, maybe he chose her because of her comments. Maybe it is an insanity defense and he's like, she gets it. I don't know. But nothing she said in that clip that I've seen would disqualify her from representing him. It's up to him. He has a lawyer of his choice. And commenting on the case before you're on it, as far as I'm aware, no jurisdiction does that disqualify you from representation. I'm sure you could say something that would disqualify you, but I don't see that here. And so I do find it very interesting that she's already commented on the case and that's who he's chosen to represent him in New York. Did he hear about her husband representing P. Diddy? I don't know. Who's making the decisions? Him, his family? Is she taking money from crowdsourcing? Who knows? We're going to find out all of that maybe as we go. This would make me think maybe she's going to be amenable to giving interviews and going on and talking to CNN, talking on her podcast maybe, or some other podcast, probably not her podcast, but some other podcast about this case. I don't know. We'll see. Will her client be okay with that? She's going to have to be very careful. Attorney-client privilege information. Is there going to be a gag order? All those questions are still pending. Also, a lot of people, I think she's very open politically. I think she's left-leaning on Twitter and, other platforms. And people have asked me, insurance is right-leaning. Big insurance is usually on the right side. She's on the left side. Is she taking this for a political reason to go against insurance companies? And what I'll say is, it's very common lawyers' political views do not get in the way of who they represent. I know personally lawyers that have represented politicians they hate. I know lawyers that have prosecuted celebrities they like, and they still do their job. Because lawyers, to their core, it's why people love them and why people hate them, defend the Constitution, honor justice, and seek justice. The good lawyers, I should say. The good lawyers. So I don't know. I don't know, right? I guess only time will tell. But I can't wait to see your questions, what you think about this new lawyer in New York that Luigi Mangione has hired. Why do you think he picked her? Do you think connecting these dots is as interesting as I do? All the different connections to Garagos, to her husband, to P. Diddy, to CNN, to Luigi Mangione now. Oh boy, this is made for TV because it just adds to the intrigue of this case. What's going on? How is this going to end? We're going to follow it. Let me know what questions you have. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our page if you've enjoyed this content. Till the next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know.